Well, the Lions did address something they needed. They addressed edge. All right. They drafted a pretty exciting player. And we're fired up about it. And we thought, you know what? Let's talk to someone that is very, very close with Ahmed. And honestly, he's played a very integral part and kind of introducing him to the game of football. And, I watched his interview with the heavyweight. Shout out to Easy and Spencer. And the dude is he's just a great guy. So we're going to have him on, chop it up, talk some ball with him. You know what I mean? He's smiling over there. Get in here, Cory. Please welcome to the show. And Cory, please, before I introduce how do you say your last name? You got to tell
Besh. I got to get this thing focused, man. What's
all good, brother? How are you, man? Appreciate you.
There we go. There we go.
Locked in. What up, man? Cory Besh. Yes, sir. That's how you pronounce it. Easy told me to tell you guys what up, though.
Come on now.
Let's go.
I love that. I love
yes, sir.
Easy's already getting you introduced, man.
I love the hat too.
Yeah,
man. I had to search all around Boise to find some Detroit Lions gear. They were sold out, man. We have you guys know Shields? You ever heard of a Shields before?
No,
never.
It's like a Bass Pro Shop for sporting goods, like all sporting goods, right? So like everything you could think of from outdoors gear to NFL apparel to normal clothes, everything you could think of. And they were sold out of all the Lions gear. So I'm like, man, I gotta go find something. So got me this draft cap, got my brother one. He's heading out in 2 days to get to you guys in Detroit.
Come
so
on.
It's an exciting time. Hell yeah.
Hey, shout out Idaho, man. Lions.
Yeah, man. Hey, they are like a baby Detroit. They support their team. They support their players. It's a great spot to be, man.
I love that. Cory, before we even, because we're interested in just like Ahmed's story and kind of how everything about it. But I want to get to know you, Cory. I want to get to know kind of your story here. How'd you fall in love with the game? I know you're a football coach. Your background is football. Can you kind of give us some insight to kind of how you fell in love with the game and kind of how it started for you?
Yeah, man. I was lucky enough to have a very significant father figure in my life. It was my mom's dad. So my grandpa, he passed away 7 years ago. Randy Besh was his name. I've got him tattooed on my arm, but he was, that mentor, that role model that filled a lot of roles for me in my life. My dad, the one that I share with Ahmed, was in Egypt when I was born. And so being kind of the American side of the family, I didn't really have a great relationship with him. And so like a lot of young athletes, they need that father figure role to be filled by somebody. And my grandpa was the best at that. And so I played every sport growing up and was always an extremely good athlete. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but
go ahead and toot it, Cory. Go ahead and toot it, Cory. Come on.
Let the people know.
I'm just saying, I made the most out of my frame and my potential. That's for sure. But it was definitely a different path than Ahmed had, right? Like, so I grew up, I was the kid, I'm a lot older maybe than you would think. But I grew up watching SportsCenter reruns every night, right? Falling asleep to those. And so to see my brother, on the Rich Eisen show is kind of surreal. And, but that was me, man, growing up and just loved everything about sports, loved the competitiveness, loved just the fact that you can go out there and prove yourself, and being the smallest guy on the field always, no matter what I did, it was a chip on my shoulder, right? To go out there and prove people wrong that you could do it. And, I played all throughout, childhood, ended up playing in high school, bouncing around a bunch of different high schools, started at Servite, which is like a prep school, rivaled Mater Dei. But I'm going to say this embarrassingly, I was 4'10" my freshman year. Damn. Right. And so I was like way undersized and way behind the 8 ball as far as, development and things like that. And so high school was tough for me and was used to being the dude. And as soon as everyone else starts growing up and I'm, staying undersized, you don't get as many opportunities from coaches and things. And so I bounced around a bunch of different high schools, ended up at Loera High School, Ahmed's alma mater, and found a home there and played my senior year. Thought my days were over playing football and ended up getting to work out with a quarterback coach who was my high school coach, Steve Calhoun of Armed and Dangerous Football out of OC, and one of the top quarterback coaches in the nation, trains Jordan Love. We don't love Jordan Love. Ahmed's going to sack Jordan Love. We'll just put that out there. But Jordan, he trains a bunch of guys, Keenan Allen. And so I grew up with him, and he called me one day. He said, hey, can you come run some routes? At the time, I was a wildland firefighter, actually, for the U.S. Forest Service, and was in the best shape of my life. Yeah, and he's like, hey, I got Sam Bradford's back up here. I need somebody to run routes. So I went over to the field. I ran some routes. He said, you still got some juice left in it. And so I went to junior college, played for 2 years, ended up getting a chance to go play at Azusa Pacific University, made the most out of that opportunity. And as soon as I was done, went back to Loera High School, my alma mater, to give back to that community and those kids there that needed that same male role model, mentor figure that I had. So I felt that was my purpose. That was kind of my calling. And that's what set me up for the future that I would have. And then ended up going back to Egypt and visiting my family and bringing Ahmed to come to school at Loera as well.
What a story. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's just a part of it, man. That's crazy. Yeah.
Cory, you guys are all grinders, man. Like, that's what I'm getting from this. No wonder.
100%. I think that is in our DNA, right? To prove people wrong. I think that Ahmed, like coming from Egypt and having people there tell him he couldn't do it, that he would be back in 2 weeks, that he couldn't even speak the language. How was he going to be successful? I know he has that as a chip on his shoulder, and he's been proving it every day. He continues to prove it, at every level that he's performed at. And I know that's something he's taken with him to Detroit. It's funny that he's in Detroit because, Amon-Ra has that famous line where he knows every single receiver that went before him and where they played. Yeah. Ahmed was doing the same thing. Now, he probably doesn't remember all their names and stuff, but he's like, hey, save that big board sheet because I want to look back at that in 2 years and see what those guys are doing compared to where I'm at. And so I got it in the room, and it's going to be motivation at some point in the coming future.
I love that. I want to bring up too, because you mentioned the Rich Eisen show, Cory. Yeah. And when I went back and watched that, and obviously the story is unbelievable. We hear stories all the time in sports, and that like puts you back a little bit, and you're like, this is amazing. It has to be, your brother's story has to be at the top of the list. Like, this is an insane story, like just the grind of it all too. The one thing I want to bring this up, because Rich Eisen was like, hey, I saw him at the combine. Our crew here went to the combine. We go every year. And when he was performing at the combine, and I kid you not, we all look at each other. The drill where he is yelling at the Ravens defensive line coach. I think it might have been Lucas on the show here who we look at each other, and we were all, or Jeff, he was just like, he's going to be a dude. And we didn't know if he was going to be a lion. We had no clue. And we went back to our hotel room and did our show. He was one of the first guys we brought up just based off of that. So seeing the full circle there with the Rich Eisen and all that, can you kind of tell the story? Because he broke it down on the Rich Eisen show of his story from Egypt to high school, and you kind of becoming that kind of figure in his life to get into the game of football. Can you kind of break all of that down and how that story played out?
Yeah, it's an insane story. And I believe, God willing, that it's going to be a movie or a book or something someday. He's got to just perform this last leg of the journey. But it's crazy because, like I said, I graduated from Azusa Pacific University. At the time, it was an NAIA school, a small Christian university in the outskirts of LA. And so I thought my career was done. I made the most of it. Slot receiver, returner, do it all type of guy. But when I went back to coaching, I was at the school that Ahmed went to. There was not a ton of talent. So the socioeconomic and just experience around there, you get a lot of kids that come in as freshmen. They have never played football before. And so you do a lot of development and fundamentals and teaching kids of character. But sometimes you don't have enough athletes on the field to, give a good look. And so what I ended up doing was, playing scout quarterback for every practice and just going against our defense to give them the best look. And our head coach at the time, his name is Mitch Olson. He had played in Europe before, back in his heyday. And he would always tell me after practice, man, I wish we could get you connected to the guys in Europe because you still could play. And it sounded like a pipe dream, right? That would be amazing to go play football in Europe, or like kind of live my own professional dream. But I never thought it was realistic. And then one year, he, probably 5 years after coaching with him, he goes, hey, I got a call from a coach in Austria, and they're looking for a quarterback. Now, like I said, I'm 5'7" now. And that's not the ideal size for a quarterback. But because I had that experience with Steve Calhoun and learning how to play receiver, I was always watching the quarterback drills, always trying to pick his brain on, how the position is played. And so I was like, shoot, I can play quarterback in Austria. That's not the highest level of football. And so I got the opportunity with my best friend, Jonathan Rangel, who was the DC at Loera. I was the co-offensive coordinator. We got a chance to go in March of 2018 to Austria, a small town in the Tyrol Valley, right outside of Innsbruck. And we got to play our own little version of a professional football dream. And so we were out there for 3.5 months. And at the end of that, my sister, Gigi, who was in Egypt, I got 2 older sisters and 2 younger brothers. My sister, Gigi, who was in Egypt, said, reached out to me and said, hey, while you're on this side of the world, why don't you come over and visit the family? Unbeknownst to me, Ahmed and some of the struggles that were going on within the family had been weighing on her. And she kind of had this ulterior motive that she did not let me know beforehand, that she wanted to see what I could do to kind of help his situation. So when I got there in early June of 2018, I was staying on her couch and she's informing me of kind of what's going on and how, the family has always been supportive, but there's just issues going on. Ahmed is struggling in school. He's struggling in his personal life, and he's looking for an opportunity to kind of get out of that situation. And they were mulling over ideas like sending him to a military academy in Georgia called the Riverside Academy. And he was gung ho for it because he just wanted out of what that situation was like. And so, I felt a call in my heart that that my purpose of being a male mentor and father figure and football coach would not be wasted on my own brother. And so I kind of, listened to that and offered my services, not knowing what that would be like. And within, a week of kind of talking it over in the 10 days that I was there in Egypt, they sent me back home to find a place for us to live. And Ahmed was following me a month later in August of 2018 to play football for me and go to school at Loera High School in Anaheim. And so it was a crazy transition. That's how he got to America and got involved in football and started his own football journey.
Wow.
That's just the beginning. It goes more, but I'll break it up. You can ask me whatever you want about that for sure.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, seeing him get drafted was probably surreal, but just kind of staying on the part where you're kind of bringing him back over from Egypt as a big brother, because I have a brother who's like 15 years older than me. So I know what it's like when it's like, you have that protective, like, hey, that's my little brother. What's the proudest moment outside of him probably being drafted that you've seen in the transition from him coming over to Egypt to the United States?
Yeah. There are countless proud moments, right? Like as a big brother, I'm 14 years older than Ahmed. So I'm 37. He's going to be 23 this year. And so there is a big gap, and it's a strange relationship because we didn't grow up together. We grew up on the other side of the planet and without a lot of communication. So with a language barrier in between us and a lack of trust and a lack of, of history together, there was a feeling out process between us. And he had to, assure himself that I was in it for the right reasons, right? That I truly did love him, that I truly did support him, and that I wanted to do whatever I could to help him be successful. And so you might think, the football things are the most proud that I would be of him, but to be honest, it's who he is as a man and what his heart is, that is what I am the most proud about. He, what you saw at the combine and him and his, expressive nature, yelling at that coach, that is who he is, whether he's at home, whether he's on the field, whether he's wherever he's at in the classroom. He is a intense, charismatic, loving, passionate dude. And just the way he treats people, graduating high school would have been an amazing accomplishment from where he was at. Going to college and just making a team wouldn't have been an amazing accomplishment. Becoming, a star player at Boise State, amazing accomplishment. Graduating college, which he just finished his last classes, amazing accomplishment. Making it to the NFL, amazing accomplishment. But there's the culmination of all those things really just come down to who he is as a person. And the reason he is so successful is because of that character. And so I had been coaching for 8 years before he got here. And, you teach and you coach all the players, with these lessons from life. Football is the best sport to teach life lessons. So I'm constantly harping on these players, and some of them, take it to heart, and some of them maybe don't make those right decisions. And so to have my brother be the one that took everything that I said and everything that Coach Olson said and everything that the leaders around him said, and he took it to heart and he put it into action, that was probably the most proud that I could be, because it's not a single moment. It's everything that he does. I wear these wristbands on my wrist still to this day. And these are from back when he was in high school, and it says all the time, not some of the time. And that was our motto at Loera. You do the right thing. You treat people right all the time, not some of the time. And that is truly what I'm most proud about him for.
Well, it's Cory, that's crazy too. I mean, you mentioned writing like the book, the movie, the Rich Eisen clip of him saying like you tried him out at different positions, and
Yeah.
I got a kick out of it because it's so genuine. He's just like, well, I tried wide receiver, I'm sure because of your familiarity with the position, and then he's like, well, I couldn't really catch anything, and then I'm playing linebacker, so much is happening at once, and then you just say, hey man, you line up, you get the dude with the ball, and then at first he's pulling face masks, and then eventually just starts clicking. And he dives into the story about how he had to watch. He was watching a YouTube video, how to pass rush, on his way to like a camp that he dominated at.
Yeah.
Like, when did you like watching him grow? I'm sure you've seen the early moments to kind of now who he is as a player. But during those early moments, when did it start? You start noticing like, oh, this dude, not only is he good, like this dude can be great. When did it start clicking for you along that kind of early process?
Yeah, it wasn't right away, right? Because like I said, Loera High School, not a football powerhouse. It's actually the lowest division in California, high school football. And so didn't have a lot of talent to base it off of. And so you get him there, you see his size, you see his potential, you see what he could do on the defensive line, but the competition he's going against isn't the best. His teammates aren't necessarily able to hang with him in practice. So you're really not quite sure how it's going to translate to the next level. And this is a disadvantage and an advantage looking back on it. But going into, he plays his sophomore year, like you said, we tried him at receiver, couldn't catch a ball, tried him at line, can't do it. Put him at the D line, he's just manhandling people. Once he learns what he can and can't do, right, then okay, he's a dominant force on the defense. We're going to start to build the defense around him. And my best friend, is a defensive mind, and so he's like, this is the cornerstone of the defense. We're gonna make him the force. And so he had special calls, special blitzes. We called Pharaoh. He could run wherever he wanted on the defense and just wreak havoc, right? And so junior year, he just blows up. And first team all league, first team all conference. We make a run in CIF playoffs. He ends up, getting a pick six for a touchdown. And I'm screaming like a little, so everything is kind of happening. You're like, dude, this dude's the real deal. But then senior year, right when we're thinking, okay, now's when he's going to start the recruiting process. We're going to send him out to camps. COVID hits. And we're thinking, what's going to happen now? And this is where it's like, it's a blessing. Maybe with everything else that's going on, you would hate to say COVID's a blessing, but for his football journey, I can't remember the last time a college recruiter came to Loera High School. But because of COVID, we were forced to kind of go out and find alternative ways to get his name out there. And so it was one weekend in a city about 35 minutes away at a facility called Winter Circle. And it's in Corona. And it's kind of in the hub of all the Southern California schools. And this scouting event was being put on, and all the studs from the surrounding schools, Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, Corona Centennial, all the Division I high schools in the area had all their guys come into this to try and get some film out, because no visits are happening. No in-person recruiting is happening. And all the college coaches are looking for high school players, and all the high school players are looking to get their name out to college coaches. So I took him to that event, and we walk in. At the time, he's 6'2.5", 260, right? Just a straight man child. And he passes the eye test immediately. You could tell as you're walking in that everyone's like, who is this dude? And so then I tell his name, and they're like, what is his name? Ahmed Hassanein. Like, where's that from, right? And then I tell them the high school, they're like, Loera, where's that? And so it's like this mystery, which was kind of not planned, but strategically, sold to them, right? Like I enjoyed telling the story and hearing and seeing their ears perk up. And so the scout who was there at the time, kind of representing all the colleges around, and I think it's National Preps. I can't remember exactly the name of the company that he was sent from, but he's sitting in the background, and his ears perk up when I say that nobody knows who he is. And he says, literally, well, that'll change after today. And so I knew he had the attention of a guy who knows what a real D1 football player looks like. And so he starts, measuring him up against door frames, and he's like, hey, take a picture of him next to me because he's the measuring stick, right? Oh, I almost freaking just sent my computer on
the intensity, Cory.
Yeah, bro, I'm telling you. So he's like, dude, this is amazing. Like, this is my, diamond in the rough, right? And so he starts, getting all the footage. I'm out there like a proud dad, taking, clips of every single rep that my brother starts taking, because he's going up against 3 stars, 4 stars, maybe even 5-star prospects. At the time, the number 1 defensive end in the country, or the number 1 recruit in the country, was Cory Foreman out of Corona Centennial. He ended up going to USC. And so my brother's like, I want to compete next to that guy and show that I'm as good as him. Within one day, he's got 3 stars on his name, right? And within, a week, he's getting calls from colleges, and they started at the D2 level. Azusa Pacific, hey, Cory, we want your brother here. I'm like, a little too small, brother. I'm sorry. Maybe me, maybe the grinder, but this guy's the next level. Trust me. And then it was the University of Northern Colorado, a FCS school, and then it was Duke and Kansas, and now we're cooking with fire, right? And I'm thinking, okay, he's really has potential to play at that level. But I just thought that for him, strategically, a school in the Mountain West, or a school like, at the time it was Fresno State, that I thought might be the one that he would end up attending, because they were recruiting him, but they were playing it slow. Was thinking that would be a good fit for him. A school where he could compete, he could develop, we could kind of measure him and see where he's at compared to the rest of the, the nation. And then also, if he's got that NFL caliber potential, those schools have been known to put players in the league. And so we're thinking Fresno State, but they're drawing it out. And then one day, this is where it really gets crazy. One day he gets a message on Twitter at the time, and it's from Spencer Danielson, at the time, the defensive line coach at Boise State. And he says, love what you're doing, big man. We're watching you. Keep up the hard work. And so my brother comes to me, hey, I got a message from a Boise State coach named Spencer Danielson. I said, Spencer Danielson, that's my high school, and that's my college teammate, brother. Like, tell him that you're actually my brother. And so Spencer didn't believe him, because of course I'm 5'7", this dude's 6'3", and like a man child, right? And so he's like, he hits me up immediately, Spencer, Cory, is this dude really this big? Tell me about him. Like, and we have a good relationship from playing in college. That Christian University really develops, bonds between the players, and we have a saying, one blood, right? Which is similar to one pride, right? Once you're together, you can't separate it. And so we had this trust, and he made me swear that he was actually 6'2.5", that he was actually this big, and then he was actually this raw and this type of talent. And I did everything in my power to convince him, and thank goodness he trusted me, because within a week after finding him on Twitter, he was ready to offer him a scholarship. And then we took a virtual visit on a Zoom call, and my brother, before even telling me, commits on the spot to Boise State. I had kind of been telling him that would be the right spot. Once I knew it wasn't going to be Fresno, there's no better, jewel of the Mountain West than Boise State, and developmental program that could get him to the league. And so that's how he got there. That's when I knew, man, okay, we really have a guy who can potentially make it. And yeah, when his coaches at Boise State told me after his first, game, getting live reps, he literally came up to me and told me, your brother's going to get paid to play this game. And he didn't owe me that comment. But he could see it from his true freshman game at D tackle. And so that's when I really knew, like, this dude, if he stays on the trajectory that he's on right now, man, the sky's the limit.
Cory, just real quick, can you talk about the Boise State journey? Because looking at it itself too, I mean, I think it was sophomore year. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like two or three sacks sophomore year, and then jumps to 12.5, and then 9.5. And I think I actually heard you when you talked to Easy and Spencer mention that different DC from year 3 to 4, different scheme, and still had 9.5 sacks. Obviously went down, but like, can you just talk about like what it was like kind of going through that process there at Boise from, I would just say, from year 2, 3 to all the way to 4 before the draft?
100%. Yeah. I mean, what you don't realize is also that, And unless you're following Boise State, you don't know the personnel, right? But he goes in as a
right.
D tackle, and so he's playing inside. They have him gain some weight, but he's playing behind Scott Matlock, who at the time was a captain and future NFL defensive tackle for the Chargers. So he's learning the game and just developing. He plays his first year, doesn't get much playing time, but plays all the special teams and just, we thought he was going to redshirt, but because of injuries, he ends up, using that redshirt year. And then sophomore year, he's still at the D tackle position behind Matlock. And then they had just brought in George Tarlis, who was a 5th-year transfer, and they put him on the edge. And so there were 2 guys there, and Tarlis ended up getting an invite to Raiders minicamp and things like that. So 2 NFL caliber guys that he was behind, whether he was interior or exterior, right on the edge. And so he didn't get a ton of playing times, but when he did, he showed out, right? 2 or 3 sacks, a couple tackles for loss, was a game wrecker. And you could tell, and I'm that brother that was at every game, like counting the snaps, like recording on my phone from wherever I was sitting and just hoping like he's going to get in there and make plays. And he starts making plays. But I knew, once he got the opportunity to be the guy, then that's when he was really going to show what he had in him. And so, that transition from midway through his sophomore year, they realized, okay, let's put him out on the edge and let's let him do that. And so that's when he got stuck behind Tarlis and he was rotating in. And I always thought, I think he's the better player, but you got to let that thing work its way out and let the coach, trust the coach's process. This time is also Andy Avalos as the head coach. Andy Avalos, a former BSU star and, a hero and legend around here, first head coaching opportunity. And so it was an interesting time for the program and an interesting time for the players and their relationships, and the culture around the program. So he didn't get as many opportunities as he would have liked, but going into his junior year, Andy Avalos still the head coach. He becomes the starting defensive end. And I was quoted in saying like, dude's going to have double-digit sacks. When a reporter was asking me about my expectations for the year, I said he's going to have double-digit sacks, and the dude looked at me like I was crazy. He's literally said like we'll see, in a sarcastic manner. And I definitely had pride calling him halfway through the year and letting him know that he was beating double-digit sacks. Right? But it's like, but it was like it was coming to fruition what I had expected. Right? He was doing what we knew he could always do. But then, as any, stud player on a defense, he ends up winning first team all conference. And then going into his senior year, now he's the focus, right? He's the focal point. And like you said, a new defensive coordinator comes in. They end up letting go of Andy Avalos at the end of his junior year and promoting Spencer Danielson, who becomes the first interim head coach to ever win a conference championship. They had less than 1% chance when they fired Avalos, and they ended up winning the Mountain West Championship. And so that motivation, that momentum that came from junior year just rolled straight into senior year, but the attention also came with it, right? So every DC in the game or every OC in the game is now focusing on stopping 91. And Shenander, being a smart defensive coordinator, understood that, hey, okay, we can get some pressure by using him to take away the attention and get some pressure from other sides, right? We're going to bring some extra backers we're going to overload a side. We're going to have him push inside and take the tackle and the guard, and then we'll loop a guy around outside. And so there's a reason Boise State University led the FBS in sacks with 55 last year. It's like, it's because, right, of that attention. And he, being the team player that he is, accepted that role. And I told him, every good scout, every good GM, every good head coach will understand that that's how football goes, right? Real fans can see the writing on the wall. And so no one's expecting you to hit 12 and a half, 15 anymore, right? Because that's probably not going to happen, especially when you're playing Oregon and you're playing these bigger schools. But you get up there towards that double-digit number, you show that you could do it back-to-back, and you show consistency in your production, and you are an NFL caliber player. And so he took that humbly, and after having a streak of, I think, was 9 straight games with half a sack, which was in his junior year, which is the longest going back to 2015, I think. After having that consistency, I think he was a little frustrated to not have the production and seeing some of his other teammates, perhaps higher on the sack list than him. But that was just because of his competitiveness, and his humility kept him grounded and saying, like, as long as we're all winning and we're all eating, then that's good enough for me. And so he did what he needed to do. but still kept himself right under the radar, just enough so he could get to the 6th round for the Lions to pick him.
Perfect.
Perfect segue, Cory, because I was going to ask you. I mean, you said NFL scouts, GMs, they're going to notice, but when you think about head coaches too, when he got off the phone and you realized that he was going to the Detroit Lions to play for Dan Campbell, what was the first couple thoughts that were going through your mind after that?
Well, I mean, I was laughing internally because I had previously hoped and prayed for the Detroit Lions because of Dan Campbell, right? Because of the culture around Detroit right now and the way that team is the trajectory of the team. I knew that after his progression from high school, his head coach, Mitch Olson, disciplinarian, tough guy, right? Loves his players, but is going to hold you accountable and get on your ass if you need it. And so that transition to Spencer Danielson, who is the highest energy, most motivating, charismatic leader, but also going to get on you if you need it, but develop you as a man. And so if you put Mitch Olson and Spencer Danielson together, you get Dan Campbell. And I was like, dude, this is the most ideal person to lead him and develop him and motivate him. And so I'm thinking, please let it be Detroit. Please. And as the draft is going on and we're not sure who's going to pick, and I'm watching Detroit pick every other position except for edge, I'm seeing it set itself up. But I'm still stressed as no other, right? I'm sitting on that couch, just twiddling my thumbs, looking at the big board, doing everything I can not to freak out, especially not to freak him out. And it wasn't until, that 6th round comes up and I'm like, okay, I got to give it up, man. I give it to God. And I said a prayer and I said it to Ahmed. I said, give it to God. He knows exactly what team needs you and exactly where you're supposed to be. And it was not a second later that call came in from the Lions. And so it was a humbling, almost like God laughing at me, like you've been stressing all day, but you knew it from the very beginning. And I knew where your brother was supposed to land up. And it is the perfect place for him. He is exactly what Dan Campbell, what Brad Holmes is going to want in a player. He's exactly what the city of Detroit is looking for in a dude to root for. He is going to give everything he's got all the time, not some of the time. And it's like, it's a match made in heaven, truly. Like, and especially even just seeing the way the community has embraced him and kind of looks at his potential and understands the developmental process. It's going to come faster than you think. I promise, Detroit. Like, 6th round is not representative of his ceiling. He's going to be a guy that, I think in 2 or 3 years, you're going to look and you're going to be comparing with the edges that win in the 1st round, right? So if you can get that bargain in the 6th, maybe not the 1st, maybe the 2nd round, right? But I'm telling you, the best edges in this class are the guys that he was training with in pre-draft. Right. And he's calling me every day, telling me, guys, I'm as good as these dudes. And it's the same thing he was saying when he was going against the guys in high school. I'm as good as these dudes. And so I have a tendency to believe him now, right? And I'm not going to doubt the process. I'm going to trust and keep, remaining humble and praying. And God willing, he's going to continue to stay on the trajectory he's on. But, there could not be a better fit in program and culture and head coach and in the city that he ended up in.
It's interesting. I mean, we're so lucky to get your perspective because, I mean, it's funny. It's like, it is a perfect pairing. You nailed it because Brad has preached to this fan base and we've been starving for a good front office. So thank goodness it worked out where, your whole family now gets through for a team that's, I mean, good thing you didn't get drafted 20 years ago, but regardless, what Brad Holmes has taught us is they looking at the human being first. And I think that's now clicking with us, with the media, with fans, where when a player's drafted, it's like, okay, he's not only a good player, but he's a great human, or they at least love something about him character wise, whether it's his work ethic. He's a good, they don't want to have to worry about him, obviously off the field, his values, all that stuff. But the thing that surprised us, we had our draft show and we were obviously big fans of Ahmed. And during the process, we're like, it's the 6th round and we're refreshing the best available on ESPN and we're covering it. And we're like, how is he still here in the 6th round? I mean, not even just like based on production, everything. So Can you kind of give us more insight to like that process from like the combine, what feedback he was getting from organizations? What was kind of the feeling of where he thought he was going to go? And I know it was shocking he went in the 6th round, but how did that come to be? Because it feels like a guy with that production, with that type of talent. I know what happens every year in the NFL. I mean, Amon-Ra was a 4th round pick. So there you go. But how does that happen? Can you go through that process?
Yeah. Well, to touch on a couple of things here, like one, being a coach, right, at the high school level, at the college level, it doesn't really matter. You know that character is important, right? Like you could have a great player, right, but if they don't have the right mentality and they don't fit the culture of the team, then it doesn't really matter, right, how good they are. If they're gonna, there's a reason why, and I don't want to talk trash on a kid, but like if Corey Foreman, the #1 recruit in the nation, goes to USC. My brother goes to Boise State. Corey Foreman now plays for Fresno State, and he's on his 5th year, right? And my brother just got drafted at the NFL. If that doesn't highlight, the importance of the right fit, the right mentality, the right character, the right work ethic, then I don't know what does. And that doesn't just stop at high school. That doesn't just stop in college, especially with today's NIL landscape, right? It's almost easier to find out what your motivation is, right? If you're playing for money, if you're looking for the next biggest paycheck, right? Then maybe you're not the guy to stick at a certain college or whatever. And that's what Spencer Danielson preaches at Boise State, is like, you can have everything you want at Boise State, including, the NIL deals and all that stuff, but you're going to play for a winning team, a championship level competitor every year, and you're going to become a great person at the end of the day. And I think GMs and coaches understand that. Not all of them. And not all of them, you had the Ravens GM, he has his own draft strategy, right? And he says, we don't trade up because it's a lottery pick. And at the end of the day, we don't know which ones are going to be successful. Nobody does. And when you listen to enough mock drafts during pre-draft season, myself being a Giant fan, right? And not a Giant fan, holy moly, I don't got to pause. I'm not a Giant fan. That's atrocious, right?
Yeah.
Being a huge football fan and a football mind and a coach and an advisor and manager, I'm thinking of what are people saying, and everyone values things differently. You heard all year about Ashton Gentry being in the Mountain West, right? And how he wasn't shouldn't be getting the Heisman because what's the competition like? But then he gets drafted in the 6th, the 6th pick in the draft. Obviously, they didn't really worry about his talent level, right? So I think it's a combination for Ahmed specifically. It's a combination of multiple things. It's lack of experience. You don't really know what you're getting. When you got a raw diamond, you don't know if it's going to be, perfect clarity, perfect cut, how many carats, because you still haven't discovered yet. And some guys, some GMs, some coaches might not be willing to risk their career, their reputation, their money, the organization's future on something that isn't guaranteed, right? And so I think that might be one thing. I think the level of competition, I think the rawness, I hate to say it, but not all coaches want to work hard. And sometimes, developing a guy takes a little bit extra effort. I think, Detroit's new defensive line, Casey Rogers, great opportunity for him to come in and have a moldable player who hasn't learned bad habits, who hasn't, done it his own way, has only learned within a couple systems. And so it's like this is an untapped resource that you can really make however you want, but those intangible qualities, what you're getting. And so I think it's a combination of all those things. And I think the production being at Boise State takes a little bit away. His measurables, he didn't jump off the page at the combine. I think his most memorable thing was his energy and his infectious, personality. And that is great, but maybe that's not what some teams are measuring, right? They want to see a long-armed guy who, has run sub 4.7 or something like that, right? Some guys want a 240-pound edge who's going to have great flexibility and bend because they want to use him in their scheme. I mean, my brother is going to be able to do a lot of different things, and whatever is asked of him is exactly the type of player he wants to be. He's not going to go off script. He's not going to, be an individual. He's going to be a team guy, and it starts with his power. It starts with his ability to stop the run. It starts with his physicality, but he's just an overall prospect that I think still had questions about him, right, in the process. And I think some teams are willing and, to take on that risk. And some teams are better at seeing through the nonsense to what's really important in a prospect.
Cory, what do you think? And I was thinking about this today when we were, trying to, think of some questions to ask you, especially for this year. And I'm sure you and Ahmed have had conversations over the last few weeks about like, hey, this is maybe what he wants his rookie year to look like. And you mentioned it a lot, like, hey, kind of trust the process. What's his mindset going into this rookie year? Like, how is he going to approach it? Maybe like ceiling for this rookie year. Is it, hey, just take every opportunity as it comes? And because I told these guys when they got drafted, me and Jeff were having the conversation. I love the feel, everything about him. I was like, I'm all in, and especially in Detroit. Everyone's like, we want an edge. And when he gets drafted, I was like, you see the work ethic. And the one thing I said is someone that has a work ethic like that, especially in the NFL, I gave the example of Max Crosby out of Eastern Michigan, late in the draft. But he has that mindset to where it's, as soon as I get an opportunity, I'm not going to let that thing slip. And it feels like it's the same thing with Ahmed. So have you guys had those conversations like, hey, this is what I want to do my rookie year? And what do you kind of tell him and realistically, like sitting down being like, these are the goals to set for yourselves and his goals going into this season?
Yeah, I don't think the goals have been so much, statistics based or role based. I think it's more mentality based, right? He's going to, like I said, he's going to show up and he's going to do everything that's asked of him. And then some, right? He is going to pick the brains of every coach that's there, every player that's there that can help him develop and become a better football player. He knows that has not reached his ceiling. And so he is a sponge. He is, looking for every opportunity, especially at the NFL level. It's like when he transitioned to college, it was, this giant awakening of like, wow, this is what it could be. And he's going to take that next step at the NFL level. And whether it's special teams, whether it's, a certain role on the defense, whether it's, he come in on early downs and stop the run, whether it's, come in on pass rush downs and get after the quarterback, he's going to do whatever it takes. I think realistically, and I don't want to speak like, too highly, but I truly believe that if he is able to digest the NFL defensive scheme, if he's able to, I don't think he's going to have a problem with the physicality of the NFL. I just don't. He's always been the strongest dude in the room. He don't put up 34 bench press reps on accident, if you know what I mean. And it's like, he is that guy. He's always been that guy. And so like, there's going to be a few technique things. There's going to be obviously terminology and language. It's a much deeper, more complex defensive scheme. And so I think once he gets the hang of that and he starts to play free and fast, I truly believe that the sky's the limit. And I know, and there's a need, there's a concern. Are we going to pick up an extra free agent? Is Z going to come back? Who's going to come back? Who's going to fill that role? Who's left on the market, right? That could fill that role. It might be Ahmed. Like I truly believe that he's going to be a guy that like, if that's the role that coach has him in, if coach trusts him to do it, then he will do it. And I think you're going to see him on the field, I believe, sooner rather than later.
That fires me up. I'm not gonna lie. And real quick, Klotz, I'll let you. I remember in that, I don't know why this just made me think of it, but on the Rich Eisens show, he had brought up Aaron Donald, that he always looked up to Aaron Donald. And I thought one of the funniest things, I think this is awesome. He said when he was watching Aaron Donald when he first started playing football, and he thought Aaron Donald was playing in high school. He said, well, high school does he go to? Yeah. He said, I think it might have been you that told him, said, no, that's the NFL. Has he been able to connect with Aaron Donald yet? Has he had that conversation, or has there been any sort of connection to where he could work out with him? Or it sounded like Rich Eisen was going to hook that up.
I think he might at some point. What's funny is, okay, so the story goes, we're watching a Rams game. Aaron Donald is on the field. Who the hell is that? That's Aaron Donald. What high school does he go to? Bro, that's the NFL. Let me explain. This is how you got to do it. Go D1, then get good enough, then get drafted, then be an amazing NFL football player, make all the Pro Bowls, be ready to go Hall of Fame, then you're Aaron Donald. But, like, there is no other Aaron Donald. So nice try. You could be Ahmed Hassanein, and who knows what the ceiling is for Ahmed Hassanein, but, like, there's only one AD. Now, that doesn't stop him from trying, right? So he is just, grinding in the weight room. And recently, right after, that conversation with Rich Eisen, there was a viral video of somebody getting the opportunity to go meet Aaron Donald. And Aaron Donald invited him to work out. I don't know if you guys saw that video. And, and so what's funny, and this is who my brother is. The day after that video comes out, I look at my brother's Instagram story, and he's doing the same workout that Aaron Donald was doing in that video. He's got like 110 pounds, and he's doing like chest press dumbbells. And I'm like, dude saw the viral video. He's like that. Like he's like
That's
personally
so good,
took it on as a challenge. And so he'll beat Aaron Donald someday. And I'm sure he'll measure himself up to Aaron Donald and look at him and be like, okay, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, whatever. Like he's not quite the football player yet, but I do not kid you when I say that he is built like Aaron Donald. I believe that he could play interior, he could play exterior. If they want to push him down and get after the quarterback on the inside, he's going to make some guards in the NFL look silly because he does have the quickness, he does have the explosives and the power. He's 6'2.5" or so, 265. I'm sure, gets in the NFL nutrition plan and the weight room. He's gonna just thicken that up, not necessarily get heavier, but just become more efficient with that muscle and that strength. And I just think that, the sky is the limit. He's obviously no AD yet. He's AH, which is a few letters after AD. But I think AH is not a bad initials to have if you're an edge player for the Detroit Lions.
And Cory, something that's very prevalent with our conversation with you, and something that honestly I noticed about Ahmed right away when I started picking up on around the combine time is how strong faith is in your guys' life. And I know that it was kind of Christianity, at least introduced to Ahmed kind of recently. How much has that played a role in your guys getting to the point where you have reached as far as brothers, getting to the NFL, you being right alongside with them, just how crazy everything has been up to this point?
Yeah, it's everything. And my brother will be the first to tell you he gives all glory, and so do I, to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We would not be where we are today if God did not, put into place and put us on this path to get here. And there are, it's like a connect the dots, and if one dot isn't there, then this whole thing falls apart. And it's like it's so surreal to lean on God, to lean on our faith, to lean on the trust of the process, right? Trusting the process in so many steps. When COVID had shut down all recruiting and nobody knew his name, to then getting Division I scholarships a week later, to then having my high school or my college teammate be the one who reaches out, to then becoming the captain when Spencer Danielson becomes the head coach at Boise State, and they ascend to greatness together. It's like you don't write a script like this, and it's almost it truly is a miracle. And on top of all that, on top of the football, and on top of the worldly story, right? There is a spiritual story and a faith-based story that is deeper and more important than anything, right? My family in Egypt is Muslim, and the population in Egypt is predominantly Muslim. There is a Coptic Christian population there as well, but it is predominantly Muslim. And when my brother came from Egypt, he was not a devout, but he was practicing and would have identified as Muslim. And through, my introduction, but it wasn't me, right? It was his own personal relationship with Jesus that he discovered throughout those formative years of college, and having a solid, Christ-centered leader in Spencer Danielson, who wasn't afraid to share his faith, helped embolden my brother and help him, have confidence and just straight up bravery to convert, which is not something that is looked highly upon in that population or in that part of the world, or just the amount of just, I don't even know how to describe it, just conviction that he felt and continues to display in everything that he does, whether that's his faith, that's sharing with the next generation, whether that's giving back, or just, sharing his emotions and loving on people. Like, he does it with everything that he has. And so he will be the first to tell you, I will be the first to tell you, like, we give God all the glory. We know that this is not our doing, and it's impacting thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds, potentially millions of people who are going to see this opportunity, see his story, see his journey, and understand that there is a God who loves them and who has sacrificed for them, and that they have the access to that too. And I know that's something that I take pride in. I know that's something that my brother takes pride in, and is hoping to influence as many people as he can for the kingdom.
I love that. I mean, a God-fearing man with that type of work ethic, my goodness.
Yeah,
we're fired up about it. I want to ask you too, has anyone reached out to Ahmed after he's been drafted? Besides like coaches, obviously, has any players reached out to him?
I know he sent me a text. I know Dan said something to him, right? And he was excited about that. He sent me a screenshot.
Oh, hell yeah.
We need to get a video camera on him and Dan the first time they meet.
Oh,
if you need me to film it, I'll be there like that. But we need to make sure that there is a camera guy.
That bro hug is gonna be.
You'll be able to squish something in between their chests for sure. Kill a small animal for sure. But I think my brother reached out to Aiden. I think Aiden followed him on Instagram and he conversed quickly back and forth with Aiden.
That's awesome.
I think he was a little like unnerved because Aiden might have been a little short with him, and he's like, so this is our first introduction. Like, I just want to learn from you, bro. Like, you're the GOAT. I'm not coming for your spot. I just want to play with you, you know. But like he's like, okay, like I can't wait to meet these dudes, and they're gonna notice that, you know, once he gets in person, you guys are gonna see, you know, once he gets to training camp, his personality is infectious. Like he is a guy that wants to learn from everybody, right? He's gonna be picking anyone who will listen's brain, right? And to try and become the best player that he has, but also just to relate and just ingratiate himself with the environment. And so, he's had a couple people, some random like fans have reached out. It's pretty funny. Like, you guys saw he got engaged on draft day, right? Yep. And so what was really funny is he gets a message from a Detroit Lions fan by the name of Taylor Lautner, right? None other than the guy from Twilight, which was his fiance's crush when she was growing up. So there's some like discourse there, like, can't wait to make you a lion, but he's like, hey, stay away from my girl, right? So funny. And she's like, I cannot believe that is like my high school crush. That's literally messaging my fiance like, this is insane. Her mind was blown. You know, it's funny stuff like that. Can't wait. I know Eminem is a huge Detroit Lions fan. Would be amazing to meet him, Kid Rock, all those major players in the Detroit, Michigan area. But man, he's ready to make an impact and love on his teammates and the surrounding city of Detroit as soon as he gets there, which will be Wednesday after I take him to the airport.
Come on,
let's go. Hey, what we need to do, Cory? Are you going to be in Detroit at some point this offseason? Or
I better. Now I have to pay my own way, so we'll see about that. But you know, like it was nice when we were doing like the pre-draft process. I could put it on his agent and all that stuff. And now it's like, man, you mean he's got his own paycheck? He's got to help pay? I'm like, oh man, all right. But yes, I will be there. I will be in Detroit. I don't know when, but I'm gonna make sure I get there. I know my sister my sister from Egypt is potentially looking about moving from Egypt to the U.S. And so she wants to explore the Detroit area. And I think I'm going to try and coordinate, find out when training camp is, find out when the best time would be, and get out there to Detroit and you know, see what it's all about.
When you get here, we'll do something with you. We'll get you to the Lafayette, Coney, American Coney. We'll do all these different these food joints in Detroit. We could show you around a little bit.
Cool, man. Yeah, I would love it.
Get the full experience.
I mean, Cory, a good Coney dog will change your life, Cory.
Oh,
I can't wait.
Have you heard of the rivalry? There's a rivalry in downtown, so you'll have to look it up. And then once you get here, we'll go. We'll see which one's the best.
Yeah, you could settle it.
I would be glad to. I'm gonna be 265 by the end of it, but it's okay.
Come on now.
I love that. Go ahead. You guys got anything else?
Yeah. One last thing, Cory. So Ahmed talk about Aaron Donald. That's like his GOAT.
Yeah.
Who's Cory's Aaron Donald? Who was like your guy growing up that you were like, that is my GOAT? Yeah.
Well, I guess I was just talking about this with somebody from the Boise area. I mentioned that my play style and a slot receiver, undersized, but a technician, a route runner, right? Like never dropped a ball. We talk about our boy Tesla, right? I wanted to talk about that a little bit, right? Dude didn't have a single drop, right?
In
all college. Okay, I got some inside information. I will go back to my GOAT for a second, but let me drop this little bit of wisdom.
All right.
This is like my football analyst in here. Okay, trading up, we could talk about that. But let's talk about the fact that this dude did not drop a single ball. And we've all seen the highlights. How many of those catches are contested?
Oh,
right?
a
lot of them.
He
goes up and gets them now.
The quarterback at Arkansas, again, I don't like to ever talk bad about football players, but I'm gonna analyze right here. The quarterback at Arkansas, Taylor Green, formerly the quarterback at Boise State University. So I've seen a ton of him at quarterback, okay? He is a athletic freak. Never seen a quarterback turn a corner and run down the sideline faster than Taylor Green. But I will promise you, his weakness of his game was passing from the pocket, mid to intermediate throws, and throwing on time, right? Sometimes when you get an athletic quarterback, they tend to hold on to the ball a little bit, right? They want to buy time with their legs. And so they don't play within the scheme, especially if you're a rhythm offense and you want to get it out early. And so if you watch those Tesla highlights, right, he is open early a lot of the time. And it's a half a second late that the quarterback's getting that ball to him. That's giving the defender a second to get into the play. Right. And now he's going to have to go make a high point catch or a contested catch. You put Jared Goff in that situation with the route running that Isaac Tesla has shown at the college level, and you put him on, whether that's outside, just think of Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and Tesla, who's a route running for Jordy Nelson-esque, Eric Decker-esque, right? Someone who's always going to be in the right spot at the right time. What better receiving core do you want, right? You got every tool in the tool bag, and you got a quarterback who knows exactly when and where to use it. I think it's a great pick. I think he's going to dominate in the offense this year. I think it's going to be a fun offense to watch, a passing game to watch. But so to that, man, my camera is.
You're good.
What are we doing, bud? Come on.
Yo,
I'm moving too much.
There we go. We're back.
I'm the blur, dog. That's me. That was me as a football player. So fast you can't even keep a focus. No, I think he's going to kill it. And being a slot receiver, watching the way he sets up the safety, watching the way he can get off a release, stem a guy back up, right? Make a man miss. I think that that is going to translate really well to the Lions offense. And for me, it was, unfortunately, when I talked to this guy in Boise, I told him about my play style. I told him, he goes, "Oh, so you were like Hunter Renfrow." I was like, way too young. I was like, I wasn't even Julian Edelman. I was the Wes Welker generation. So that's my comp. I was Wes Welker. That is the GOAT of slot receivers, right? He was the first that like changed the game in Bill Belichick's scheme and with Tom Brady, right? Always having that security blanket, always getting open. 100% of it, like never going to drop a ball, except for that. There's probably one infamous drop that Welker had, but it's like that was my comp, that was my GOAT, and I think that's who it would be for me, minus all the concussions and the giant bobblehead he wore at the end of his career.
Gritty player too, undrafted or 7th round pick out of Texas Tech, I believe.
Yep, gritty. And a punt returner, kick returner. Yep. Got his start with the Dolphins, and then it was. Like we said before, it was a guy with a vision, right? A GM with a vision or a coach with a vision, Bill Belichick, that said, we could take that guy and make him the integral part of our offense. And look at what happens. They win multiple Super Bowls. So it's like, if you trust the process, if you trust the vision, if you know what you're looking for and you have the conviction to go out and do it, like, why wouldn't you go get your guys? Whether that's Wes Welker, Isaac Tesla, Ahmed Hassanein, right? As long as the Super Bowl is at the end of it, man.
Wow. I mean, we get the comments now in the chat. It's like, Cory, the ball nowhere. I mean, the Wes Welker pull, that's a ball nowhere pull. I mean,
hey Cory,
that's incredible.
I'm going to throw this out there. Anytime you need to get a takeoff or anytime you want to talk ball, shoot me a text. You're on the show. You're coming on.
Would love it, man. Would love it. I love talking. This is my thing, man. I love talking sports. Like I said, I was the kid watching ESPN as a kid, as a young man, and I remember one of my very first tweets I ever sent off was to Kevin Nagandi, and he was like saying his favorite candies, and it happened to be the same list as me, and I was like, I can't believe we have the same candy. I would love to be in your spot someday. And he's like, don't put it past you. Like, I was like, you never know, right? You never know. So be a little sports analyst on the side. I wouldn't mind doing it, and I love being here. This has been a cool experience, and yeah, definitely looking forward to talking ball and seeing what the Detroit Lions do this season and in the coming future.
I love that.
I'm fired up after this, man.
I mean,
I'm ready
Cory,
to go. I can't wait till August, September, till training.
I'm gonna drop you with one last story. You guys ready?
Oh yeah,
let's go.
Okay,
go ahead.
This is my sign off story. Okay, so I'm talking to Egypt, right? Because I've had to translate every step of this process, from hiring an agent to the draft to stats and everything, to my family in Egypt. My Arabic speaking dad, he speaks English as well too, but my guy has become a huge football fan in the meantime, and is trying to bring me stuff. See, I know what I'm talking about, and all these things. And so my sister was here in town for the draft. She just went back to Egypt, and she brought a bunch of clothes with her. And we still have our youngest brother, Ibrahim, who's in Egypt right now. And so I called my dad yesterday, and my brother gets on the thing, and he's got this shirt on, and it's got printed on the shirt. He's got this gold chain, right? And this big printed bulldog on the front. And it's kind of cheesy. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, what is he wearing? Okay. And it's got it says like the dogs, it's got like jersey style, but it's like really, really odd graphic. And so then my brother turns around and shows me the back of the jersey, and it's got a number and it says dogs, but across the top, it says the word relentless. And I love that word because people have described Ahmed as relentless all the time. So I call it out. I say, relentless. That's cool. Like, do you know what that means? And I'm talking to my little brother who's 14, I think, and telling him, do you know what that means? He barely speaks any English, but I'm going to translate what relentless means. And my dad, who's about to be 70, goes, I don't actually know what that means. Right. And I'm like, wait, you don't know what relentless means? And so I was like, okay, let me try and explain it. So I'm an English teacher. I give him my personal definition. And I said, doesn't ever stop. You're right. There's no whatever. And then I looked it up for him, and it was my favorite. It is now my favorite definition. It said, relentless is 3 words: oppressively constant and incessant. And when I was like, oppressive, forceful, overwhelming, right? Like, he knows what an oppressive environment is like. He lives in a third world country with an authoritarian government, right? He knows what being oppressed is like. Constant and never stopping, and incessant, to be without pause or stopping ever. If there is not a better word to describe my brother, I don't know what it is. My brother is truly relentless. He will not ever stop, ever, until he reaches his goal. So whether that is, the Hall of Fame, the Pro Bowl, a Super Bowl, he is never going to stop pursuing the quarterback, pursuing greatness, pursuing Jesus, whatever it is, he's never going to stop. He is truly relentless. There's no better word, maybe other than grit, to describe who he is as a man. But man, this dude is relentless, oppressively constant, incessant. He's going to rush the passer that way. He's going to do everything that way. So you guys have a fun time, fun future ahead of you guys, Detroit. I promise.
Come on.
I'm going to throw this out there. Our chat and a lot of fans have been calling your brother maybe like the quarterback assassin, maybe the relentless assassin. I'm just throwing out a nickname. Maybe
Egyptian magician. I mean, I've seen
there's been a lot of nicknames getting thrown around, Cory.
Hey, whatever sticks, whatever you guys want. I've tried to get him to do the walk like the Egyptian theme for like when we play that, but no, he's not down for that. He likes to kick down doors. He likes to do whatever. I said, hey, you just get sacks and you can celebrate however you want. I promise. We'll call you whatever you want. The assassin. I've heard that. I've heard the Egyptian.
Right here. The relentless assassin. I like this.
The Hassanein. His name is a little tough, so we got to get him something that's easier to go with. And AH squared is going to be what I think the edge position is going to be for a long time, right? With Aiden in the middle.
Come on.
Yeah, it's like,
what you're doing there.
I just think we have a bright future ahead of us, and quarterbacks have going to have a nightmare on their hands.
I'm so pumped up. I can't wait.
I mean, you are one hell of a storyteller, man. I mean, I have to say that you are one hell. It makes sense, like the background, a football coach, you're a teacher, just the way you communicate. I'm sitting here like, I feel like I was there. I feel like
that's my papa, brother. Hey, when I tell you that my grandfather was that guy, he lives through me. Like, another crazy story. So I get this tattoo, right, of me and my grandpa when I'm in Austria. Okay. Before I even go to Egypt, I get this tattoo, and I get it. It represents my journey with my grandfather and his mentorship over me. But when I got it, I said to myself, this also represents me and the next generation, right? All the football players I've helped raise, develop and raise and teach how to be a man, not knowing that in a week or so, after a couple weeks after I get this tattoo, I'm going to then go to Egypt and fill that same role for my brother. What's crazy is this: my brother he's got a full sleeve tattoo on his right arm, and he's it represents his journey, right? Just like my tattoo represents my past and my journey, he's getting a full sleeve tattoo representing his journey. And I get a Facebook memory that pops up, and it says 6 years, not to the day, to the literal second that I was getting this tattoo. My brother's getting his tattoo done of his journey. So it's like, it was actually like kind of one of those moments where you go like, and I even checked like the time difference. Like okay, this is when I was getting my tattoo in Austria. What would the time have been in Boise? Like at the same, it's literally the same second. I'm like, what is happening? Like when so many of these things line up, you just stop questioning. You start saying, okay, God, I'm gonna let you take the reins. You just lead me wherever you, and tell me what to do. I'll let you, handle the rest. And so it's been an amazing, amazing journey. I can't wait to see what else is to come, because I know God's not done with the story yet.
Oh, no. Not at all. With a guy like that, with that much relentlessness, I mean, we are fired up to have him here, man. We're fired up to have you. I mean, fired up to have his family too. I mean,
appreciate that, man.
Especially the players, man. We take pride in it. I mean, these guys, we root for these players, but we love the families too. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, man. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to turn on some Ahmed highlights. I think that's what I'm gonna have to do at 10 o'clock when the show ends. I might just fire up the highlights.
Bro, there's highlights that you guys haven't even seen, because like from his sophomore year, his junior year, there's a couple that I've got on my phone that are like, dude, just sending a guy through the back of the end zone. Right? Like I'm like, that's a Division I football player that you just made look like a little baby. Like, it's just insane to see like what he can do when the situation is right. He hasn't even reached he even in the scheme, he was limited on what he was allowed to do. He told me, he's like, they told me, bro, I could never spin. I go, really? Because at the East-West Shrine Bowl, you busted one of the best spin moves in the entire camp. He's like, yeah, I just practiced that day. It's like, bro, you give him a season of doing those types of moves, of developing his pass rush plan, right? Of getting a couple alternative moves, right? And then you let a coach, build that scheme around it. Man, I'm telling you, the highlights aren't even going to be representative of what he's going to be doing this year. They're going to be a limited sample of what you're getting in Ahmed Hassanein.
I can't believe that. That's the no spin move. I mean, that's like Aiden Hutchinson's signature move. I mean, this guy going to get to the NFL, he might even be a much better pass rusher because they're going to let him get a little more creative. I feel like that's how the Lions are, though, at the same time. I mean, they'll let guys kind of be themselves. I'm excited, man. He's in a great spot.
Yeah, they were definitely leveraging his strengths there, right? Knowing this is what he does amazingly, right? He will set the edge like nobody else. He will take on a pulling guard or a counter block and literally make that guy regret like coming at him. It's like containing an edge. They put him on a side and they said, we don't have to worry about this. Let's scheme up the rest of the defense. And he did his job every single time. I think that was the scheme. Now, when you get to the NFL and you can pass rush 4 and let him go inside or outside and set a guy up, man, he's excited about the potential opportunities that he's going to have at this next level.
Oh,
love it, man.
Let's go.
I'm fired up.
Yeah, we appreciate
A squared, baby.
We do.
A squared.
A squared, baby.
A squared. I mean, remember the name, dude. Remember the name. We appreciate you, Cory. We got to link up, man. When you get to Detroit, we'll do something because it's a great city. I mean, he's
love it, man.
It's a great.
Yeah, and I'll be on anytime. You guys let me know. I could hop on. And I definitely won't take up an hour, an hour and a half, or whatever.
It might be one of the greatest hours of this show's history.
Yeah, don't you apologize. This is great. Bro. It was awesome. We had a blast, man. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
God bless you too, man. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
There you go.
Appreciate it, Cory.
Cory Besh, the brother of Ahmed Hassanein, joining the program, dude. He is that guy. That guy's got it.
Yeah.
That guy's got it. Hey. What's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, FisherCTSports.com.